And very good morning to you. It's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Thought we'd take a little bit of a different approach to try and bring it home to, the 5,000 subscribers that we have visit the website, dedicated mainly to the magnetic pole shift, and, to the 30,000 or so subscribers that we have on YouTube, the real situation. And that is, as you can see, we are facing probably one of the biggest historical crises mankind has ever been through. And I know I shouldn't do it. I watch mainstream media, mainstream news like you guys do. We hear what they're spending the money on, the global governments right now, the billions of pounds that they're printing up and thumping into private industries, perhaps a lot of it to do with their friends or their lobbyists. This money is getting shared round, but it certainly isn't being spent on the magnetic pole shift. And yet this is the real deal. If you was wondering back in 2012 like I was about what the Mayan prophecy was all about and when that date come and went, and despite we live in the Gregorian calendar and there was a different calendar there which should have been maybe a time to come or a time that has already surpassed, it is irrelevant. The Mayans, I think one thing we should take from them is that civilization no longer exists, and yet for what it did and what it left to stand for time is there today to show that civilization took part in our history, just like the Incas. We can go to all these other historical sites, perhaps the one in the UK, Stonehenge, and then you've got historical sites pretty much on every continent, which shows that these people, our past ancestors, left something for us to be witnessing today. I think that one of the best and most popular is the Egyptian pyramids. Everyone would recognise and know about those, but it is painful to watch the governments not even spend a tiny amount, probably 1% of what they are on other things, on something that is dramatically affecting everybody's life today. I'm talking about the magnetic pole reversal, because that can be linked to climate change better than CO2. If Al Gore had have got on the bandwagon of the magnetic pole reversal and said this is what's causing climate change on this planet, I don't think there would be anyone that could disagree with the overwhelming mounting evidence now that supports climatic change linked to the poles reversing on our planet. And it shouldn't come as any surprise, really. The last time this event happened was 780,000 years ago. So it's a super rare event. It's not like a volcano or a major earthquake that erupts. This comes round on average before the last time every 350,000 years. Again, this has always been a rare event. This could be what has linked to past extinctions. We just haven't got too much data to prove otherwise about how severe magnetic pole reversals are with regards to the survivability of the biodiversity on the planet. And I'm not just talking about human beings, because in relatively speaking terms, we haven't been on this planet half the time of what crocodiles have. In fact, if you think about it, crocodiles are probably still one of the slowest evolving creatures on the planet, and it shouldn't come to any surprise that not only were crocodiles around in prehistoric times, they are around today, and despite their slow evolution, it hasn't stopped them being successful in surviving. And that is probably because they can go without food for probably 6 or so months at a time, maybe even longer, and there isn't many animals on this planet that can do the same thing. They almost put themselves into an hibernative state. So in terms of them being a prehistoric animal, they're, in my book, an animal that has adapted to anything that can be thrown at it. But the reality is, guys, is that we are struggling even to keep a salary for one person here at this observatory, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's becoming so bad that, you know, it is becoming, what do I do now at this point? What do I do for the best to try and raise a little bit of awareness and some funding for the observatory? You know, it shouldn't be the case, because, you know, even today I was watching that Northern Ireland had raised over £1 million for people in Mexico for water, and that was because I think it was in the 1800s. The people in Mexico had sent around $175, which was a fortune back in them times, to Northern Ireland because they had a shortage of potatoes and there was a real crisis of famine and food starvation. So it was a little bit of a return, I suppose, with a little bit of interest added. And, you know, but the point is this, is that money can be raised for good causes, and that nobody seems to see the magnetic pole reversal as a good cause, yet everybody around the world are now having noticeable effects take place in their life as a result of the magnetic poles reversing, and yet nobody sees it as a worthwhile project or, you know, observatory to fund for that reason. Why is that the case? I watched a really good film yesterday regarding the Polish Revolution of the 80s, I think it was, 90s. And I think the guy's name was Lech. Was it Lech?
Lech Wałęsa.
Lech
Wałęsa.
Lech Wałęsa. Okay. And he started off leading a group of people into a solidarity protest in the dockyards. But the point is this, is that, you know, they all stuck together, and this is what we're seeing a big issue with today, is that nobody sticks together. But I think there are a lot of lessons learned for us further down the road when we consider what was achieved back in the 80s and 90s. For those that don't know, Poland was one of the first countries to kick Russia out and become, a self-governing country again, without the influence of the Soviet Union. But it was really remarkable, the dedication that guy had, and it was also remarkable with the support that he got from the people. And it started off as a dockyard protest, and then the coal miners started to protest, and then other industries within the country started to protest, and in the end there was an election held and the Soviet Union was actually kicked out of Poland. And that was one of the first states to do that. And then other states, not just in the Middle East, but also the Far East, started to follow suit. And that led to then the collapse of the Soviet Union and communism. So, I think we can learn a lot of lessons from Poland. First of all, from the very fact that if we stick together, we can achieve great things. And secondly, what is happening right now with people like what happened to that guy who led this revolution back in the 80s in Poland. What it shows is that when people work together, you can overthrow even governments. And, one of the things that kept happening to him is he kept being thrown in prison. And he was a family guy. This is what people liked about him. He was a family guy. He was, a man of God, Orthodox, I believe, or a Christian, or was he? What was his religion? It was not Orthodox, not Christian. He was Catholic. That's what I'm looking for. And he had a big family of children, 6 or 7 children, and everyone's seen him as a great man, and he was also a great spokesperson. But most of all, he spoke from the heart. So he had a bit of passion for helping people. And really what started the dockyard protest was the fact that they had laid off one woman, even though he'd lost his job for being a great electrician there for 10 years. What's led to the first strike at the dockyard was the fact that they'd sacked a lady that had worked there, I believe, for about 15 years. And that led to everyone getting together and asking him to come back, even though he'd been fired from the dockyard working there because of his activism in protest. They asked him to go back because he was a good person for the people, and he became, I believe, did he become the Prime Minister of Poland at one point? Yeah, He did eventually succeed and overthrow the Communist Party out of Poland. You know, what we need to do is start working together, is the bottom line. And we can, we can do exactly the same as what he did in Poland, because I think you'll agree that fascism is creeping back into our societies today. We see freedoms of expression, freedoms of information being infringed on. We see in broad daylight, even as happened to this channel, we've seen these mobs come into our own websites, remove data relating to CO2, because they are still pushing. If you listen to the presidential candidates, Trump and Biden, you hear them talking about global warming and sometimes climate change, but you won't hear them ever mention the fact that climate change is linked to grand solar minimum and the weakening magnetosphere, and as a result of those two things we're getting more cosmic rays back into this atmosphere, and in turn creating cloud seeding, which is slowing up the jet streams and causing interchange between polar and subtropical, both over the northern and southern hemispheres. You wouldn't even hear them talk about it. Do their scientific advisors even know the true causes of climate change and how well the key fits in the lock for that? The very sad thing is that it's underfunded. It's not even underfunded, it's ridiculously underfunded, this whole topic. And you've got even little observatories like ours that can't even afford to pay one salary, and that is the bottom line. And yet, just think about what you get for the salary. A website that covers all of the anomalies, not just the magnetic poles. We've got equipment now in Arizona, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, and soon to be in other countries, and various amounts of equipment. And you've got a scientist who is uniquely skilled in electronics and programming, who can build this equipment, which saves us hundreds of thousands of pounds. And it is a crying shame, and really sad, I've got to say, that we can't even keep this observatory funded to fund at least one person. That's the saddest thing. And yet we need this observatory. In 2 to 3 years we could cross that boundary where as you can see, the 40-degree mark is marked by this volcano, which is coincidentally on the North Atlantic Ridge, Ridge. And when we cross that mark, we could see an acceleration of the speed of migration, which will also be an acceleration of the decaying magnetosphere. And why should it be of concern to us? Well, clearly, if we look at a neighbouring planet which has had this happen to it, it has had and lost its magnetosphere. It had volcanic activity at one point, which it no longer has, which means its core is very likely solidified. And why is this important to us? Well, first of all, this magnetic reversal is 500,000 years overdue. Secondly, we are seeing volcanoes reduce in erupting, and have done only in 2 years witnessed a third of those volcanoes not in eruption like there was 2 years ago. So we are definitely moving to something taking place, and we are preparing now, because if we wait until this all starts to happen, it'll be too late. We need the equipment in place so that we have perhaps some proven, predictable method of forecasting what is going to take place next. There could be places on this earth which are really going to be of hindrance to the continuity of humanity on this planet and the biodiversities, and we could be talking about the South Atlantic Ridge and the South Atlantic anomaly and Brazil, and the emerging anomaly now, slowly verging on Africa, South Africa. We're talking about millions and millions of people on this planet. In fact, we're probably talking about billions of people on this planet in these regions that are going to be probably the first people we see affected, and that biodiversity in those regions be affected by more inbound radiation. So it's an applaud. I applaud people help and support what we're doing. You know, there is 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. There is over 5,000 people that visit over 7,000 people that visit the website every week. Yet they walk past the links. Take it for granted that we can continue doing all this work and providing it free of charge. But you know, I said to you guys, we can keep it public funded, but it has to be public funded. And you know, there's nothing more to say than, you know, we all need to get a grip and realise the importance of what we're looking at here, even if the governments aren't going to pay any attention, because they're going to be caught with the pants down at some point in the future as a result of this, and the negligence through just admitting this as just a normal anomaly, because it's not. It's a rare anomaly, and we have no recorded data of what happened during the last magnetic reversal, none whatsoever. We might have a little bit of information with regards to what took place during excursions, but not for completed reversals. So, you know, I implore you to start getting behind this observatory now. You know, because now is the time, more than ever, as we merge closer to that 40-degree mark, things are going to start happening, as we are already seeing cropland disappearing, food productive lands disappearing globally. We need to start working together like what happened in Poland. If we want to throw this into reverse, I already told you guys, we're witnessing right now what the Germans done back in the 1940s. Have you any idea of what you will be capable of? You know, if the worst case scenario happens, you think, oh, you've got a bit of food growing in your garden, you think you've got some supplies. Trust me, you've got to realise this, that you have eyes in the front of your head just like every other human being. That makes you a predator, just like a tiger. And when you're hungry, everything is going to be on the menu. Everything you look at will be on that menu. And that even includes, and I know you won't believe it right now, but history has proved this, even your neighbours will be the target. When you're one of the ones that have, and you live in a world with the ones that don't have, trust me, you're the target. So you really, we want to prevent having to go into that situation. I know a lot of people, which I can't believe, have got the mentality that, oh, we've got our preparation done, you know, we've got a few guns, we can look after ourselves. Really? You really think you can do that? You won't have enough ammunition for the amount of people that's going to merge on your property at that point in time. What is best is to prevent this even happening in the first place. The only way we can do that is by making more awareness of this anomaly that's taking place and supporting observatories like this to get that information, record it accurately and deliberately, truthfully to you guys. That's the only way we can do this, and the only way we can do that is by sticking together and supporting it. So guys, the links are there. You can support us on PayPal, Patreon, you know, but the main thing is start supporting us. Again, another period of time in this month as we merge closer to Christmas that we start to go underwater and drowned. You know, what we're looking for is to be, you know, on land ideally with this observatory and not worry about, you know, a little bit of funding just to keep it going, just to keep you know, a small salary coming in at least. Okay guys, look after your loved ones, and I'll say what I usually do. You have an amazing day as always. Bye for now.